It's past 9 p.m. IST and the once-in-a-lifetime solar eclipse has just begun. It's another 52 minutes till you can see the total sun covered. A phenomenon that will not be visible to people living outside North America. Nonetheless, WION will be getting you the live updates from this celestial event. And we are getting live visuals at this point from North America, where people have gathered to view the celestial spectacle, the total solar eclipse. Millions of people, of course, around the world have their eyes on the sky right now. A rare total solar eclipse shadowing North America. To witness one of the biggest celestial phenomena, people have gathered across the US, Mexico, Canada. They are gathering in places along what is called the path of totality, which basically means cities, paths that fall along this path will see the moon fully obscure the sun. They will see a dark afternoon for a few minutes. And if the weather permits, people in cities like Austin, Dallas, Mexico as well, will be able to see the solar eclipse. For the cities outside the path of totality, a partial eclipse will be visible.
It's pretty much a once-in-a-lifetime experience to see an eclipse close up, especially at Niagara Falls. I don't think another good one will be for decades, and even though we're pretty far from home right now, this is still in driving distance.
And for some, this phenomenon is cause for celebration. Just take the example of this young couple. They say that they have traveled from California to join the watch party at Niagara Falls with a plan to get engaged by the falls. Take a look.
Their fun additional thing is that a little bit later there might be a little bit of a surprise going on that we're pretty excited about. So yeah. Big moment for us, definitely.
Yeah.
Big moment indeed. And there are some people, by the way, who chase that big moment, even if it means traveling around the world. Take Leticia Ferrer, for example. She is 63 years old. She lives in North Texas, and she has witnessed 20 total solar eclipses around the world.
I've seen 20 all over the world. All 7 continents. Who knows those 7 continents? Yay! Did you know there were 6 oceans? I've seen 6 oceans too.
Now, at any other time, the beaches of Mexico are full of tourists. Today, the seaside city of Mazatlan in Mexico is a hive of activity. Both locals and tourists have come to the shorelines. Across the city, one can see banners advertising the astronomical event.
Antes estaba relacionado con desastres, con destrucciones. Ahorita no, ahorita es un fenómeno que pues, nos habla de la hermosura, yo lo puedo decir así, de la hermosura de la creación, de la hermosura de los astros. Entonces, no hay que temer. En torno a los eclipses ha habido muchas mitologías, ha habido muchas situaciones que nos han alarmado. Y no, pues si fuera así, pues no hubiese tanta gente ahorita en Mazatlán que viene a presenciarlo.
In fact, some are also praying that the eclipse will be good for business. The local fishermen hoping that the eclipse will bring good ocean currents so that they can catch a lot of fish and lobsters.
Va a estar bien la pesca porque se mueve el mar. Cuando se mueve el mar es cuando fluye las corrientes y las corrientes meten pescado, langosta, todo eso meten. Ojalá sean corrientes buenas también, porque hay corrientes que no meten nada de pescado. Hay a veces que no hay nada de pescado. Ojalá con el eclipse sean corrientes buenas para poder agarrar pescadito, langosta, todo eso.
And astrologers who look to the stars for answers to many of life's questions believe that people are impacted by the alignment of the sun, the moon and planet Earth. And since this rare celestial phenomenon is happening in an election year, here's what they have to say about the upcoming election in the US.
Trump's chart, the eclipse, not surprisingly, falls into the 9th house. 9th house is legalities. He has a bevy of legal issues right now. And it's eclipsed, so he doesn't have the full clarity. He's basically in the dark. And what's really interesting is Mercury is retrograde. So maybe one of these gag orders could stick. We'll see. And then the ruler of this eclipse is in his 8th house. 8th house, he needs money. 8th house is finances. 8th house is debt.
But some astrologers say that the eclipse is not going to be bringing in gloom. Rather, we should see this eclipse as an opportunity to become more emotionally self-aware.
There are tons of upsides to this eclipse. Now, on a personal level, the solar eclipse in Aries is an opportunity to become more emotionally self-aware as we deal with feelings that we usually push aside. Anger, irritation, ambition, passion, egoism, right? So we can come into greater self-awareness, greater consciousness, and that is a meaningful step towards becoming more whole, more aligned, and using our agency in ways that help us to become the kind of person we want to be in our lives and in the world.
And let's now go straight to our correspondents, Susan Teherani and Siddharth MP, with us on the broadcast, taking us through the minute-by-minute developments. The moment is finally here. A lot of anticipation in the air, of course, in the run-up to the total solar eclipse. Let me come straight to you first, Susan. Give us a sense of what things are looking like and what the people around you have also been sharing with you in terms of the preparations that they have made to witness this celestial event.
Hi, Molly. I'm standing in the middle of New York City's Central Park, and in just a matter of hours, this field behind me that doesn't have an obstructed view of the sky will be full of New Yorkers and tourists hoping to get a glimpse of that 90% eclipse that we're going to witness here in New York City. We do know that up by Niagara Falls, hotel reservations are completely booked. People have been traveling up there, and then the Buffalo area in New York as well, days in advance. But here in New York City, not only will people go to their local parks, but like I mentioned, they really want to come to places that they have a wide view, like this field behind me. These glasses are very important. There has been constant warnings about wearing these eclipse glasses that have been authorized by NASA. Of course, some school children in the past had learned how to make eclipse glasses with cereal boxes and whatnot. But if there's one commodity that's in high demand right now in New York City, is these special glasses to get a glimpse of that eclipse. Of course, the governor has said to be very mindful because there may be a lot of car accidents during this time, considering the fact that not only people want to get to where they want to watch the eclipse, but also while they're driving, they might want to get a sort of peek of that eclipse. Airports may have delays as well, but we are expected to see a lot of traffic and congestion. But nonetheless, I have my glasses ready. If I put them on right now, I don't think I'll be able to see anything. I can't. But when I look up in the sun, surely enough, it's there and we're waiting.
Waiting indeed. Let me also bring in Siddharth MP onto the conversation. Hi, Siddharth. A lot of talk also about the Aditya L1 mission and how it will be tracking and studying the sun's behavior during this solar eclipse. What more can you tell us about that?
So, hi, Molly. Let me start by telling you that India per se as a country, anywhere in the geography of the Indian subcontinent or in Asia for that matter, where it's night, it's not possible to see the solar eclipse. It's always this way that only the parts of the earth that have daytime can witness it, and that too only along the track that the moon is actually visible and moon is actually blocking the sun. But what we have to remember is that for the last several months, it's been a complete end-to-end solar eclipse, or 24/7 solar eclipse for India's Aditya L1 spacecraft, which is at a vantage point almost 1.5 million kilometers from the Earth. From there, in fact, Aditya uses a very special equipment that is called a coronagraph. They call it a visible emission line coronagraph. So only when the moon completely blocks the sun, the eclipse happens, right? But this is a natural phenomenon. But how do you simulate it? How do you sort of artificially perform it? That is what this coronagraph does. It actually completely blocks out the sun's light and only ensures that the outermost layer of the sun or the sun's atmosphere, known as corona, is visible. So using that, the sun's corona is studied using this particular equipment. So even today, the sun's corona is something that will be visible for a couple of minutes when this complete eclipse happens. And in the US, people will be photographing it and observing it. But we have to remember that for the last several months, India's Aditya L1 spacecraft daily, minute by minute, has been studying the sun's corona, eclipse or no eclipse, because this special equipment on board Aditya can ensure that it is a complete eclipse view, even when there is no solar eclipse happening. So that's the beauty about Indian space science and technology. In fact, even NASA and the European Space Agency have, done missions to study the sun. So this is in that regard. And let's also remember the fact that studying the sun's corona is very important, because the corona is where a lot of high energy particles are emitted from the sun. And when they come to the earth, there is also the danger that they can disrupt high tension power lines. In the past, it has happened in Canada and in Zurich. And also, these can also damage satellites that are orbiting the earth, which is why it's extremely important to study the sun's corona. The sun's coronal studies can be done only during an eclipse. Right. But obviously, eclipses happen once in a couple of years, and the eclipse happens only for a few minutes or a couple of hours. So at that time, the observation is very limited, which is why space agencies send missions to the Lagrangian point. And then from there, they get an unobstructed 24/7 view of the sun. For several years from now, Aditya will be studying the sun's corona as though there is an eclipse non-stop. So that's the significance of the Aditya L1 craft.
Which is why it's all the more important to make the most of the duration as far as this total solar eclipse is concerned. We already have those visuals of those large number of people who have gathered to witness that event for themselves. It's been called a once-in-a-lifetime celestial spectacle. Going back across to Susan, who's been getting us those updates from New York. Susan, we have already talked about the path of totality. We've also been getting our viewers the reactions coming in from different quarters, astrologers weighing in on what this means for the US in an election year, for example. Also, a lot of beliefs, myths, superstitions, perhaps, that are associated with a solar eclipse. So if you can just share with us some of the recommendations that have been made and some of those myths that have been busted as well.
Yeah, social media is just the perfect environment these days for not only astrological predictions, but also really trying to sew things together and make sense of everything. I'll give you an example. Now, this does not mean that we're endorsing it or it's valid in any sense, but one clip that went viral was where some astrologers and also regular people were saying just on Friday, we had a 4.8 earthquake here in New York City, and lo and behold, on April 8th, which is 4/8, we have an eclipse. So anything can go. We have to be careful. A lot of advice on basically don't make big decisions, or others say that absolutely this is a time of clarity. So yeah, as you mentioned, there is a lot going on right now. There are, some aspects that we can really take note that in detail, and that's the fact that back in 2017, that was interesting. But what makes this one interesting in 2024 is the sun was, first of all, a lot calmer in 2017. But in 2024, this year, the sun has a lot more rays. And, while we're looking, if we're lucky, we even see some sparks and maybe some kind of flame and explosion as well. So, those are the things that have been sort of correlated by some that, something major is going to happen during this time. But we're going to keep our fingers crossed and hope that if anything major does happen, it's for the good, of course. Yeah.
We're leaving it there for the moment. Susan and Siddharth, thanks very much for joining us with those updates. To stay up to speed with the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.